She was the one person he swore he'd never touch, his brilliant, clumsy assistant. But the night he saw another man catch her, something inside him snapped. Control meant nothing anymore, because jealousy doesn't ask for permission. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The crash echoed like a gunshot through the marble foyer. I stood frozen, hands pressed to my mouth as porcelain shards glittered across the floor like sharp little accusations. Water spread slowly, dark fingers reaching toward the edge of the expensive rug. My third disaster this week. Maybe my 100th in 3 years. Oh no, not again. Lena Harlan stepped out from the kitchen, dish towel over her shoulder. She shook her head, but her eyes held that familiar warmth mixed with quiet exasperation. Nova Ellis. That was the second Qing dynasty vase this month. Technically it was 17th century, I whispered, already regretting the words. Which doesn't make it better. Lena's laugh was soft and kind. My brother doesn't care about the vases, Nova. He cares that you keep trying to dust them while carrying 3 other things at once. I grabbed the mop quickly, my heart still racing. I can multitask. I'm excellent at multitasking. My phone buzzed. A text from Finn Carver. I smiled for half a second before my knee brushed a sharp shard. Careful. Lena hurried over as I hopped on one foot. The cut was small, but I had managed to get vase water on my other shoe too. This is exactly what I mean, she said gently, checking the wound. You're brilliant, Nova. You organize my brother's entire world better than anyone else ever has. You remember every detail, every schedule, every preference. But you do it all while tripping over your own feet. I gave her a small, tired smile and pressed a paper towel to my knee. Some people have grace. I have momentum. The heavy front door opened with that familiar, solid sound. Jax Harlan walked in. At 33, he carried himself with quiet power. His charcoal suit fit perfectly. His dark hair was styled with precision, but it was his eyes, deep brown, almost black, that always made the air feel thinner. They saw everything. What happened? His voice was calm, controlled, the same tone he used when closing deals worth millions. I straightened, still holding the mop. I murdered a vase. In my defense, it was standing exactly where I needed to reach. Lena tried not to laugh behind me. Jax's expression stayed neutral, but something faint flickered in his eyes. That vase was a wedding gift from the Caldwell family, worth about $40,000. My stomach dropped. I'll start a payment plan, I said fast. Maybe a GoFundMe? Appeal to the patron saint of clumsy housekeepers. There is no such saint, Jax replied, stepping carefully around the water. And you're not paying for it. But You're also not fired, he continued, cutting me off. Despite my sister warning me 3 years ago that you were a hurricane who couldn't sit still. He glanced at Lena, who suddenly looked guilty. She also said you were the most competent person she'd ever met, he added. Both things seemed true. I opened my mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words came. Jack started toward his study but paused. Knox mentioned you called him a human tank last week. Heat rushed to my face. I thought he was in the gym. It was a compliment. Tanks are strong. Jax's gaze lingered on mine a moment longer than usual. Clean up the vase, Nova. Try not to injure yourself further. He disappeared into the study. I stood there in the puddle, literal and emotional. Lena leaned in. He likes you, Nova. He tolerates me because I keep his life organized, I said, bending to pick up shards. Lena smiled knowingly. You've been here 3 years. You break things, insult his security chief, hum show tunes while working. And he still keeps you. I didn't answer. A dangerous little thought had started whispering in my chest lately, and I refused to listen. The day continued in its usual rhythm. I handled dinner plans, rescheduled meetings, fixed small mistakes, and only tripped once. Progress. That evening, as I prepared to leave, Jax appeared again. Nova. I turned. Yes? You anticipated the counter-arguments I would need on the Harlan contract, added data I hadn't asked for. You would have needed it, I said quietly. Jack stepped closer. The scent of his cologne, cedar and something darker reached me. You notice everything, he said, voice low. You remember everything. You're wasted on household tasks. I'm good at this, I managed, though my pulse was racing. Yes, he said softly. You are. The air felt heavy. Then Lena called about tomorrow's menu and the moment broke. Good night, Mr. Harlan. Jax, he corrected. At least once more, apparently. I smiled and left. Friday came with beautiful golden light. I worked faster than usual, excited for the neighborhood reunion. Finn Carver was picking me up. But Jax had been watching me more closely all week, and it made my hands clumsier. You're humming again, Knox Riley said as he entered the kitchen. The big security chief grinned slightly at my old nickname for him. Childhood friend picking me up? I explained. Not your business. Human tank. Knox chuckled, but his radio soon pulled him away. I delivered Jax's espresso perfectly and updated him on the shipping issue I had already fixed. You handled it, he said, looking at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. I took initiative. He stood and moved closer. You've become indispensable, Nova. The word felt too heavy. I quickly mentioned I needed to finish work before Finn arrived. Finn, Jax repeated, his tone cooling. The childhood friend. He's picking me up at 6. Jax's jaw tightened. He said nothing more, but the tension followed me all afternoon. At 6, Finn's car horn sounded. I hurried down the steps. My heel caught. I started to fall. Finn caught me around the waist just in time. Still graceful as ever, Nova. He laughed. I laughed too, holding his arm for balance. My coordination peaked at age 7. We were still laughing when I felt it, eyes on us. I glanced up at the study window. Jax Harlan stood there, completely still, staring down. His hand gripped the curtain tightly. For the first time, I saw something raw and unguarded cross his face. Jealousy. This story is about what happens when chaos meets control. When a clumsy but brilliant woman slowly steals the heart of a dangerous man who never planned to feel anything real. It reminds us that sometimes the person who breaks everything is exactly the one who can help you feel whole again. The reunion had been loud, warm, and full of memories. For a few hours I had laughed like the old Nova again, the girl from the old neighborhood who didn't have to watch every step she took inside a marble mansion. But when Finn dropped me off that night, everything changed. Jax was waiting in the doorway, still wearing his dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. The porch light cast hard shadows across his face. He looked dangerous. Who was that? His voice was quiet. Too quiet. Finn Carver, I answered, trying to keep my tone light. An old childhood friend. He drove me to the neighborhood reunion. Jax's eyes stayed locked on the taillights disappearing down the driveway. How long have you been seeing each other? We're not seeing each other. My stomach tightened. We're just friends. We lost touch for years and only reconnected recently. He descended the steps slowly, each movement controlled. He caught you when you fell. You were laughing. You were holding his arm. The jealousy in his voice was unmistakable now. Raw. Unfiltered. I took a small step back. Jax. Finn is gay. He's been in a happy relationship with his partner for 3 years. He only offered me a ride because my car is in the shop. That's all. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Jax ran a hand through his hair, destroying its usual perfect style. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "I've spent 3 years telling myself I couldn't want you," he said, voice low and rough. "You deserve better than a man whose hands are stained with things you shouldn't have to know about." I convinced myself keeping distance was kindness. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. But watching another man touch you, make you laugh. He shook his head. It broke something in me I didn't know could break. I stood there, speechless, the night air suddenly too cold against my skin. Lena found me 10 minutes later, still standing frozen in the driveway. "He saw everything from the study window," she said softly. "He's never lost control like that before, Nova. Not once in all these years." I swallowed hard. He was just being overprotective. You know how he is about security. Lena gave me a gentle, knowing look. "That wasn't security, Kara. That was jealousy. And if you still can't see it, maybe you're not as observant as we both know you are." The following week became a strange, tense dance. Jax was colder. Every conversation clipped to the bare minimum. He avoided my eyes. I threw myself into work with forced cheerfulness, humming show tunes louder than usual, pretending my chest didn't ache every time he walked past without a word. Wednesday afternoon, while chopping vegetables for lunch, my phone rang. Finn, confirming plans for Friday. I answered on speaker without thinking. "Hey, so that Italian place? We're still on for 7:30? "Absolutely," Finn replied warmly. "I'll pick you up from work again if that's easier." "Perfect. See you then." I hung up and turned around. Jax was standing in the kitchen doorway, his expression carved from ice. "Another date?" he asked flatly. "Another friend outing?" I corrected, gripping the knife a little tighter. "Is there something you need?" He stepped into the room. The space suddenly felt too small. "You're seeing him to prove something." "I'm seeing him because he's my friend and I enjoy his company." My voice rose despite myself. "Not everything is about you, Jax." His control was fraying at the edges. 3 years, Nova. 3 years without mentioning any friends, any social life. And suddenly, this man appears and you're going out twice in 1 week. Maybe I kept my personal life private because my employer made it very clear we had a professional relationship, I shot back. The words tasted bitter. Maybe I didn't think you'd care what I did on my own time. Jax moved closer until only a few feet separated us. "You thought I didn't care?" His voice dropped dangerously low. "You honestly believed I didn't notice every time you smiled? Every time you laughed? Every small moment of joy you brought into this house?" My breath caught. "I notice everything about you, Nova." His hands clenched at his sides like he was physically holding himself back. "The way you hum when you're concentrating. How you bite your lip when you're worried. The fact that you triple-check the coffee temperature because you know I'm particular. How you can't walk 3 steps without tripping, but you remember every detail of contracts you've only glanced at once." Tears pricked at my eyes. "Then why? Why are you only saying this now?" "Because I'm a coward." The admission seemed to cost him everything. "Because you deserve better than me. And because watching another man catch you, it broke me." The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of our breathing. "You're jealous," I whispered. "Yes." No hesitation. Irrationally. Completely. Frustratingly jealous of a man who's done nothing wrong except exist near you. I should have been angry. I should have walked away. Instead, I said the words that changed everything. "Finn is gay, Jax. Happily partnered. He wants me to meet his boyfriend properly. It's a double friend date, where I'll probably be the awkward third wheel talking too much about pasta shapes." Jax blinked, processing. I kept going, nerves making me ramble. "Rigatoni is superior for sauce retention. Fettuccine beats linguine. Farfalla is decorative nonsense." A faint, broken sound escaped him. almost a laugh. Nova! He stepped forward until there was almost no space left between us. I've been acting like a possessive fool. Yes, I agreed softly. You have. His hand rose slowly, hovering near my cheek, asking permission. Tell me I'm alone in this, he said, voice raw. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll step back. I'll be only your employer again. I should have lied. Should have protected us both. Instead, I whispered, I feel it too. I've felt it for months. The moment his lips touched mine, the world narrowed to just us. It wasn't gentle. It was 3 years of restrained longing, of stolen glances, of unspoken fears finally breaking free. His hands cradled my face like I was something precious and breakable at the same time. I gripped his shirt as if letting go would make him disappear. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Jax rested his forehead against mine. I love you, Nova, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Your chaos, your brilliance, your terrible vegetable insults, all of it. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I love you too, I answered, voice trembling. Even though you're controlling and possessive, and even though I'm going to drive you crazy with my clumsiness. A small, real smile touched his lips. I'm counting on it. This story is about learning that love doesn't ask us to be perfect. It only asks us to be brave enough to choose each other, even when the world around us is dangerous, and even when our hearts are terrified of what might break. The next morning, I arrived at the mansion expecting another day of careful distance and stolen glances. Instead, I found everything changed. My small desk in the corner of the kitchen was gone. Lena Harlan waited for me at the bottom of the grand staircase, a soft smile on her face. Come with me, Nova. She led me upstairs to a room I had always assumed was storage. When she opened the door, sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. A beautiful desk stood in the perfect spot to catch the light. My files, all of them, were neatly arranged on custom shelves. A new laptop waited, already logged in with my name. Jax had this prepared, Lena said quietly. He's been planning it for weeks. I ran my fingers across the smooth wooden surface, heart hammering. This is too much. It's appropriate, she replied. You're not just managing the household anymore. You're going to work with him on the business side, Director of Operations. That's your new title. Before I could argue, Jax appeared in the doorway. He looked at me carefully, as if afraid I might refuse. If the office isn't right, we can change anything, he said. I sank into the ergonomic chair, overwhelmed. It's perfect. But Jax, people will say you're giving me special treatment because we're together. Let them. His voice carried absolute certainty. Anyone who has worked with you knows the truth. And anyone who doesn't matter. He stepped closer, his presence filling the bright room. For 3 years you've worked harder than anyone else here. You've solved problems before I even knew they existed. This isn't charity, Nova. It's recognition of what you've already been doing. I looked up at him, fear and excitement twisting together in my chest. What if I mess this up? What if I prove everyone right by failing spectacularly? Then you'll pick yourself up, he said softly, covering my hand with his. Fix what you broke. And keep being extraordinary. The way you always have. My first real project came that same afternoon. The Harlan family contract negotiations were stalling on the Northwestern Territory. Jax asked for my fresh perspective. I opened the files I had quietly studied for months. They're not negotiating in good faith, I said. They're running out the clock until the Delgado family finishes their harbor acquisition. But that timeline is delayed by at least 6 weeks because of environmental permits. If you apply pressure now, they'll fold. Jax stared at me. How did you know about the Delgado permits? I read the regional development reports. It was in the footnotes. Page 17. He leaned back in his chair, something like wonder crossing his face. My own negotiation team missed that connection. I shrugged, suddenly shy. I just pay attention. It's incredibly impressive, he said, and exactly why you belong here. As the days passed, Knox Riley's presence became more constant. He hovered near my new office, always within sight. At first I thought it was the usual security routine. Then I realized it had intensified since I started working on sensitive contracts. New protocols, Knox explained one afternoon when I caught him watching me type. You're handling confidential information now. That makes you a target. I felt a flicker of unease. The world I had stepped into was no longer hidden behind household tasks. It was real, and it was dangerous. One evening, Jax found me in my office reviewing documents. The tension between us had softened into something warmer, but the fear was still there. For both of us. I need you to understand what you're accepting, he said, sitting on the edge of my desk. My world isn't simple, Nova. There are threats. The Moreau family has been probing for weaknesses. If we do this, you're choosing all of it. I thought about the men in dark suits who visited at odd hours, about the careful way Knox and his team moved, about the things I had seen and never questioned. I'm not naive, I told him, meeting his eyes. I know who you are, what you do, and I choose you, anyway. He pulled me gently to my feet and rested his forehead against mine. You're more resilient than I give you credit for, he whispered, and I'm more terrified of losing you than I want to admit. The kiss that followed was slower than the first one, deeper, full of quiet promises and shared fears. When we drew apart, I spoke the truth that had been growing inside me. I accept the danger, Jax, the complications, the constant vigilance. I accept all of it. Because I accept you. He held me tighter, as if afraid the world outside might steal me away. But in that moment, standing in my new office with sunlight warming the room, I felt something settle deep in my chest. Belonging. This story is about discovering that real love doesn't hide from darkness. It learns to stand beside it. It teaches us that we don't have to be perfect or safe to be worthy of someone's whole heart. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is choose each other anyway. Weeks slipped by, and the lines between love and danger began to blur. I was no longer just the clumsy girl who organized his household. I was attending strategy meetings, reviewing sensitive contracts, and sitting beside Jax as he made decisions that moved millions. The new title felt heavy on my shoulders, but it also felt right. Yet with every new responsibility, Jax's worry grew. I could feel it in the way his hand lingered a second too long on my back when we walked through the house, in the way his eyes followed me even when he thought I wasn't looking. One morning I tried to open the Northeastern Division files and found my access denied. I stared at the screen, confusion turning quickly to frustration. When I walked into Jax's study, he was already waiting, expression guarded. "I'd changed your security clearance," he said before I could speak. "Temporary measure." "Temporary?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You promoted me to Director of Operations. You gave me responsibilities, authority, and now you take it away without even talking to me first?" "It's not personal," he replied, but his jaw was tight. "The Moreau family is probing for information. Until we know their exact angle, I'm limiting access to sensitive regions." I felt heat rise in my chest. "Jax, this isn't protection, this is control." I stepped closer to his desk. "You can't love me and trust me while treating me like something fragile that needs to be locked away." He stood slowly, eyes dark with conflict. "You don't understand how dangerous they are." "Then help me understand." My voice cracked. "Don't shut me out. Don't make decisions about my life without me." The silence that followed was heavy. Lena found me later that afternoon sitting alone in my office, staring at the garden through the tall windows. "He's scared, Nova," she said gently, closing the door behind her. "Losing our parents the way we did, It left marks. Jax has spent years building walls so he wouldn't lose anyone else. Now he's terrified that loving you means putting you in the line of fire. I pressed my fingers to my temples. I don't want to be protected like a porcelain doll he's afraid of breaking. I want to stand beside him, not behind him. That evening, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer and put it on speaker with Knox quietly present in the room. "Miss Ellis, this is Thomas from Regional Development," a smooth voice said. "I was told you handle operational logistics for the Harlan Syndicate. We'd like to discuss potential collaboration on the Northeastern Harbor access." My stomach tightened. This wasn't a real call. I kept my voice calm and professional. "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong person. I don't handle harbor developments. You'd want to speak with the property acquisition team." The man on the line paused, then tried again. "If you happen to review any files related to Northeastern operations, the Moreau family is always open to mutually beneficial arrangements." There it was. The name dropped deliberately. I met Knox's eyes and answered carefully. "I'll keep that in mind if anything relevant crosses my desk. Thank you for calling." After I hung up, Knox was already texting Jax. I documented the call in the security log with steady hands, even though my pulse was racing. When Jax burst into my office minutes later, his face was pale with barely contained fear. "Patrick briefed me," he said, using Knox's real name in his tension. He crossed the room and framed my face with both hands. "You handled it perfectly. You gave them nothing." "I told you I could do this," I whispered. "I'm not helpless, Jax. Stop trying to wrap me in bubble wrap." He closed his eyes for a long moment, breathing uneven. "I know I overstepped. I changed your access without talking to you. I had Knox watching you more closely. I let fear make decisions instead of trust." When he opened his eyes again, the raw vulnerability there took my breath away. "Losing my parents taught me that love makes you weak. But you make me want to be better, stronger in the right ways." I reached up and touched his cheek. "Then trust me enough to let me stand with you, not behind you." Jax pulled me into his arms, holding me tight as if he could shield me from the whole world. "I'm sorry," he murmured against my hair. "I'm sorry for making you feel controlled when all I wanted was to keep you safe." We stood like that for a long time. Later that night, we sat together at the large table in his study, files spread between us under warm lamplight. "Tell me everything about the Moreau situation," I said quietly. "No more hiding. If I'm going to be a target, I need to know what to watch for." Jax hesitated only a second before he began explaining. The lost territory, the intelligence they were gathering, the possible approaches they might try. For the first time, we talked as true partners. When we finished, he took my hand across the table. "I'm still going to worry," he admitted. "Every single day." "I know," I replied with a small smile. "And I'm still going to be stubborn about it." A faint, tired laugh escaped him. "But we'll face it together," I added softly. "No more unilateral decisions. No more shutting each other out." Jax nodded, his thumb tracing gentle circles on my wrist. "Together." This story is about learning that real trust isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to walk through fear hand in hand. It shows us that love grows strongest not when we protect each other from the truth, but when we face the truth together. 2 months had passed since the night we chose trust over fear. Life had settled into a new rhythm, still chaotic, still intense, but undeniably ours. I no longer lived in the small apartment across town. My things had quietly found their place in the Harlan mansion, and neither of us had felt the need to name what was happening. It simply felt like home. Tonight was the annual charity gala, the biggest event of the season for New York's elite. For the first time, I wasn't attending as hidden staff. I was walking in as Jax Harlan's official partner. The burgundy silk dress Jax had chosen for me moved softly as I descended the staircase. I had won the battle over shoes, choosing elegant but practical heels I could actually walk in. Jax waited at the bottom, already dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. When he saw me, his dark eyes softened in a way that still made my heart skip. "You look beautiful," he said quietly, voice rough with emotion. Though I still maintain the Louboutins would have been stunning. I smiled as I reached him. And I would have fallen down the stairs, creating a scene. "These are stunning and safe." He offered his arm, and together we stepped out into the cool evening air. The ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers. Wealthy donors, powerful families, and careful politics filled the space. But this time, I wasn't serving drinks or staying in the shadows. I was standing beside Jax as his equal. Victor Lang, the longtime accountant, approached us during cocktails. His silver hair caught the light as he studied me with sharp eyes. "So you're the one who reorganized the Northeastern operations," he said. "The Harlan family mentioned you were formidable." I kept my voice steady, remembering the probing call weeks ago. "I simply pay attention to details others might miss." Victor laughed softly, understanding the unspoken message. Smart and diplomatic. Harlan chose well. As he moved away, Jax leaned close to my ear. "You just earned respect from one of the most difficult men in this room." I sipped my champagne, feeling a quiet thrill. I only told the truth. Later, when the orchestra began playing a slow waltz, Jax took my hand. "Dance with me, Nova." We stepped onto the floor under the golden lights. His hand rested firmly at my waist while the other held mine gently. We moved together slowly, the world around us fading into soft music and sparkling lights. For a moment, everything felt surreal. A year ago, I had been the girl who tripped over rugs and broke priceless vases. Now I was dancing in the arms of the most powerful man in the room, as his partner. "What are you thinking?" Jax asked, sensing my quiet mood. I rested my head lightly against his shoulder. "That this feels like a dream and a beautiful kind of terrifying all at once." I paused, then added softly, "I don't regret any of it. Not the broken vases, not the fear, not the danger. Because it led me here. To you." Jax's arm tightened around me. "You gave me something I didn't know I needed," he murmured. "You made me want to be human again. To feel. To hope. After years of building walls so high I forgot what it felt like to let someone in." I lifted my eyes to meet his. "And you gave me courage," I whispered. "To stop hiding behind my clumsiness, to believe I could be more than the girl who breaks things." We kept swaying gently even as the song ended, unwilling to let the moment go. "I love you, Jax," I said simply. "Your control, your protectiveness, your stubborn need to keep everyone safe. All of it." His forehead touched mine. "I love you too, Nova. Your chaos, your brilliance, the way you trip over nothing and still manage to see what everyone else misses. Your terrible vegetable insults and the way you hum when you're thinking. I love every single part of you." We stood there in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by New York's most powerful people, yet completely wrapped in our own world. In that quiet moment, I realized the truth we had both fought so hard to accept. We didn't need to become perfect for each other. I would always be a little clumsy. He would always carry the weight of control. But we had learned how to balance chaos and control. How to let our differences make us stronger instead of tearing us apart. As the night continued, Jax kept his arm around me, guiding me through conversations with quiet pride. I felt the weight of curious eyes and whispered comments, but none of it mattered. Because I had chosen this life, with all its shadows, with all its risks, with all its beauty. Later, when we stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Jax pulled me close. "Whatever comes next," he said softly, We face it together. No more hiding. No more unilateral decisions. I nodded, leaning into his warmth. Together, chaos and control. Messy and perfect. He kissed me slowly under the night sky, a kiss full of promise, full of healed wounds, and full of hope for whatever tomorrow would bring. This story is about discovering that real love isn't found in perfection. It's choosing to stay with someone even when you know their flaws, trusting them enough to walk through darkness together, and believing that two imperfect hearts can create something unbreakable. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. We appreciate you more than you think. If this tale stirred something deep inside, we invite you to remain part of this frontier of memories. More true stories of honor, compassion, and destiny are waiting for you here. Subscribe, share, comment, and thank you for riding with us today. Aviso legal barra disclaimer. Our content is designed for artistic and entertainment purposes and may reinterpret historical themes using fictional touches. We apply AI tools thoughtfully, only to support production, while keeping human supervision over editing, emotional tone, and narrative coherence. We always comply with regulatory guidelines for AI-based media and avoid deepfake practices or identity manipulation. All supporting components remain legally sourced. Please ask for authorization before sharing or adapting any segment. Your respect makes it possible for us to continue telling meaningful stories.